Welcome back to another episode of Lead Stronger, Longer. This is the podcast that inspires you to lead yourself purposefully, personally, and professionally. And I'm Stephana Johnson, your host. Today we're going to talk about how not to inspire your teams or colleagues or children or anyone else for that matter. So, a couple of things that as I was getting started on this and making notes, I was looking at how many times in the last week I have heard about and seen others who are really doing the antithesis of inspiring their teams. Even when they say what they want to do most is to inspire others, inspire teams, inspire their family, inspire the world. And they're doing exactly the opposite. So let's just go down and talk about how not to inspire. The first and foremost is that if you are completely dogging on someone and you are derogatory in how you are describing what they're doing, their behavior, etc., and basically criticizing, basically complaining and criticizing about who they are, what they've done, what they're doing, without first putting in context or communicating clearly why you're even communicating this. Because it's really interesting how many times when I go into an organization and I am in my first analysis, when I am really just focusing on understanding what's going on with regards to whether it's conflict resolution, anything that's going on within the organization, my first kind of game plan is to go in there and kind of be a fly on the wall and observe. Just observe. No judgment, no nothing, just really observing and noticing. And this is where I start to listen and find those moments where the leader who's there and thinks they are inspiring their teams, but actually is doing doing the exact opposite. They are literally making them feel like garbage and want to quit. And this is where personalities get involved. So you have to really judge whether or not your personality is like, if you're intense, I'm very, very intense. And when I'm going in and talking, I have to be very mindful that I do not bring that intensity and my serious face. I'm sure the whole resting bitch face, that I've definitely can have that resting bitch face, and it scares people. But that definitely impacts and diminishes what you're trying to do, how you're trying to inspire. And to, if you're in there and maybe your intention like mine, I'm in there, I want to try and help, I want to support, I want to inspire them to do a better job. But if you are so intense and you are communicating in a way that's out of context, meaning you've accumulated a bunch of their problems or a bunch of situations or a bunch of just accumulated moments where you haven't addressed things that needed to be addressed, or you've accumulated and the organization has accumulated moments of lack of clarity. And so as a result, that there's a whole compounding effect when the leader doesn't have clarity and maybe there's not a clear vision. There's just an impact, especially, I mean, there's a recurring impact and then there's the ripple impact. But what happens is that if you go and try and fix it at a later date, you have to understand that there's going to be a lot of pushback at first, because that you can't just walk in there and all of a sudden you've gone on a weekend retreat or a workshop and you're all shiny and new, and you come back and then you're trying to inspire your teams. You don't have the credibility. So that goes back to another episode where I was talking about the C's, right? Credibility and being clear on your messages and what you're communicating and how you're communicating with your teams. So overall, when you come in from that place of lack of understanding with regards to how you're coming across and how you're being received, that is a big piece. So the second one that I want to talk about is being overly enthusiastic. This is definitely something that I have struggled with. You will not inspire your teams if you come in there trying to be so enthusiastic and expecting everyone to get on board with your enthusiasm when you haven't set the stage for this. And that's also, I liken this to that suntan effect, right? We can go in there and have these weekend workshops, or we have these corporate retreats, or we have a 3-day retreat with everybody's going to get together, and we're all rah rah and enthusiastic. But that 3-day suntan vacation does not translate to the everyday workplace, everyday situations that we're running into, because we still don't have the fundamental pieces with regards to that congruency of how you're showing up with, okay, as a leader, are you clear on your vision, and are you aligned with that in your actions and your words, right? So I'll give you a quick story in terms of what I did when I was the president of this nonprofit many years ago. Had enormous energy and enthusiasm just generally for life. And we had our daily stand-up meetings, and I would come in there I would be blasting this exciting music. I would think it was like the final countdown, right? Trying to get everybody rah, rah and excited. And in my world, I was inspiring all the staff and all the executives. And I think there were some that were trying to get on board with me, but there was overall the receipt of that being enthusiastic did not translate to improved performance or better productivity. And that is a key piece that I think that we as leaders need to understand. You have to realize that enthusiasm in the moment to get them rah rah is only going to last so long. And this is where the longevity of your organization has to be taken into account, and we have to get all the pieces in play. It's all good to have someone come in there and do a lunch and learn. I do these regularly. I go in and do a lunch and learn, and depending on what's going on, I can be totally enthusiastic and drive some nice enthusiasm and get everybody feeling good and rah rah. But that will not inspire your teams if this is a one-off, and if it is incongruent with what it is you're trying to achieve. And that if you haven't taken into consideration what's really happening with your teams, whether it's your leadership team, whether it's a management situation, there's a conflict with the leaders and the management, or the actual people that are in the trenches working. This is a really significant issue that I see, and that comes up often, because I am brought in to bring in performance, to a skyrocket performance, and make energy and get everybody energized. And again, these one-offs, and that's why I just don't do them anymore. I don't go in and do one-offs anymore. There has to be a congruent focus for the organization, and within what you're trying to drive and inspire. You don't want to just come in here and throw this clown outfit in there to try and make everybody laugh because you're trying to inspire, or do a magic show because you're trying to inspire. If you bring something in like that when there's conflict or underlying issues going on that need to be addressed, it is almost like a slap in the face to those team members who maybe have spoken up numerous times. Maybe they have tried to get things worked out, and it just gets old, and it lands on ears that are like, no, something's off with this. So being mindful of that, I think that's really important to look at the substance of what you're trying to do with regards to that inspiration, right? If you come in there and you're incongruent, that's so important. So be clear for yourself. And are you standing up in that space to inspire your team with your words or with your actions, right? And with your actions, what are those actions looking like? And can we string together a consistent, congruent set of actions, both personally and professionally, from you as the leader? These are really important. And as I think of a couple of other clients that I've had where they try to inspire, or they get really frustrated because they feel like they're not inspiring their teams. And then I go in and ask questions about what's inspiring. I actually hear that they are leading from a way of dictatorial, very like, you didn't do this, get this done, and not so much delegation, but dictatorial. Like, is this, they're dictating the things that need to be done in a way that, like, we can define it in different ways. Sometimes there's a leader who's dictating these things to be done and then dictating on a regular basis. And really what that is micromanaging. So they're constantly telling the person what to do, and kind of in their face, or constantly right before the individual is about ready to solve the problem, and they're in there trying to get things done, but then the leader keeps interrupting and dictating or directing something next. And that's not what a leader's job is. That is not inspiring, for sure, to team members. So you have to remember, are you, as a leader, are you micromanaging everything? Are you actually a manager and you're trying to manage every task? Or are you there holding a clear vision and staying truthful in your words and your actions, where not only everyone in your team trusts you, but they trust themselves? And do you trust your team? That's another really key piece, because the moment you break that trust, there's no way someone can be inspired by you. There's no way. I think I'll say this last one, and that's that if you act like a know-it-all, I know sometimes I probably do act like a know-it-all. So I'm in the trenches and I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing where the potential of an organization, it just has so much potential. And I'm seeing where the potential of the leaders even, and they had an original vision and they had an original, so much that they wanted to create, but they didn't have the other pieces in place. And now we have this disaster, and we have it where there's completely this dysfunctional organization. And it is really sad to see, because then I will kind of get the timeline and understand that, oh, they've had so many people in there, so many experts brought in, and trying to inspire, trying to really rally the teams again and get everything handled, that these massive backlogs of things that need to get handled. And so they think this quick fix, bringing the next expert in as a quick fix, is going to do it. And it's why I minimum of 90 days with anyone that I'm working with, any organization. And really, sometimes I'm looking at 2 to 3 years before we see a level off of a new normal, because there's such a dangerous situation. There's been an emergency that's gone on for so long that now not only is the leader themselves have run this organization into a dangerous condition where they're not profitable, the staff is not happy and productive and performing at their best, and it's kind of like just going through the motions. And that should not be normal. That should not be the normal. But I'm seeing more and more of this as the normal. And then multiple experts have been brought in to try and just shock on this. Okay, we got to figure this out. And there's their solution, or this book comes out, or they try and get this traction, or this new new maneuver or this new thing going in. And there's, again, that incongruency. That is so uninspiring. That is so harmful to the organization and to the individuals in the organization, and undermines every bit of productivity and performance from your teams as well as your leaders. So I hope that helps to kind of look at how not to inspire your teams or your colleagues or anyone in your world that you are leading, including yourself, right? That'd be interesting to look at. I mean, really look at that from the lens of how you're leading, not beating yourself up about it, but observing and noticing. And do you have room for improvement? And are you okay to improve? I think that's a good thing. I think it's a really good thing to improve and constantly be improving. There's not anything wrong with needing to improve. I've got my list of things of what I need to improve, and it's been suggested to me many times of what it needs to improve. But I hope this resonates. I hope this gives some insight to think about and have fun with, play with this, see what that feels like with regards to building this in as a new way of being, a new habit of investigating and looking at what your intention is. As I was talking to someone just before I was coming in, I said, I'm going to talk about how not to inspire your teams. And I said, well, I don't want to know how not to. I want to know how to. I said, well, just do exactly opposite of what is not inspiring to your teams. And I think that is it in a nutshell. If you're doing something that doesn't work, do something opposite. Stop doing that and change that around and see what happens. So I will see you in next week's episode. I'm Stephana Johnson, host and author of Lead Stronger Longer. I hope this gives you something to chew on. Meantime, if you haven't subscribed, be sure you do so you don't miss an episode. Make it a great week.